Welcome to Exposing Workplace Bullying, where we pull back the curtain and have real conversations about workplace abuse. This is episode 32, The Point of No Return. I'm your host, Dr. Jan Kircher. Let me ask you something. When you hear the question, what is workplace bullying, what comes to your mind? Most of us immediately think about the obvious stuff: exclusion, isolation, a boss yelling, a group of coworkers piling on. Our minds go straight to the behaviors we've seen before, those we can relate to and easily identify with. The problem is that default picture leaves out two important forms of workplace bullying: nonverbal bullying and physical bullying. Nonverbal bullying is often dismissed as too minor to matter. After all, who cares if Bob rolls his eyes or shrugs his shoulders? What's the big deal? A raised eyebrow doesn't harm anyone, does it? And physical bullying? We tend to think that's too extreme to happen very often. It's a rarity. We have a hard time imagining physical aggression coming from the people we work with, the people we sit beside, report to, collaborate with, and pass in the hallway every day. We're so focused on our default image of workplace bullying that verbal and psychological abuse dominate the discussion. Everything else gets pushed to the margins. Nonverbal behavior gets dismissed. Physical bullying gets overlooked, and neither receives the attention it deserves. We forget that both can leave lasting scars that are damn traumatizing. But there are exceptions, of course. We do sometimes talk about physical violence at work. We recognize that some professions carry greater risks, and we're more comfortable labeling those types of incidents as workplace violence. A nurse may be assaulted by a patient they're caring for, or a social worker may encounter an aggressive client. A teacher may face a threatening situation with a student or even a parent, but that discussion rarely extends to violence perpetrated by supervisors or coworkers when the threat comes from inside the organization rather than outside of it. But nonverbal bullying gets zero attention. It's treated like it's insignificant. We think it's minor. We forget that nonverbal bullying is almost always attached to another type of abuse: verbal, psychological, institutional, or physical. That pairing makes it more painful to experience. It makes it significant. Bob might not always be aware of his nonverbal behavior, but sometimes it is intentional, it's purposeful, and it's meant to intimidate or cause harm. Either way, it matters. The type of abuse attached to the nonverbal behavior can increase the level of threat your bully poses. When Bob is calling you names and his facial expression changes, that's one level of threat. When he's yelling and puts a fist in your space, that's another level of danger. You need to be prepared for both, especially when they are showing up together. So, what does physical bullying actually look like in the workplace? And what can nonverbal behaviors tell you about where a situation may be headed? As always, workplace self-defense starts with threat assessment and ground control. That means paying close attention to nonverbal behavior. Changes in facial expressions, body positioning, standing up suddenly, hand gestures, tone of voice, or if a bully invades someone's space, all of those can be red flags that Bob is escalating and the threat against you is increasing. We have a default image of physical bullying too. Our minds often go to the obvious examples. Bob blocks the doorway so you can't get out of your office. Or in my case, when my bully charged around the table at me. But that's only part of the picture. Physical bullying can also be subtle and almost undetectable, like moving your coffee cup from your office to the break room, or taking important documents out of your mailbox. Whether it's obvious or subtle, the common thread is that your bully is crossing your physical boundary, using their body, your belongings, or your environment to exert power and control. But there is a difference between Bob moving your coffee cup and Bob deliberately bumping into you every time he passes the hallway. Both should be documented. Both matter. But your self-defense strategy is going to be very different. When the physical bullying is something like Bob moving your coffee cup, a verbal or written strategy may be enough. But when Bob starts invading your physical space, blocking your movement, or making physical contact, the threat has changed. Your physical safety is now at risk, and that requires a different level of preparation. You have to know what you're going to do before it happens. The reality is that physical violence can happen to you in your workplace. You may not like to think about it, and you may think it's never going to happen, but there's no guarantee of that. And the reality is you are not immune from it. There is nothing a determined bully won't do to maintain power and control. And sometimes Bob goes beyond the point of no return because inflicting pain on you is exactly what he wants. That's why you have to think about the what if, no matter how uncomfortable it makes you. You have to ask yourself, what if I experience workplace violence? What am I going to do? This was not a question I asked myself until it was too late. I was a trained social worker, and I had taken continuing education courses and class after class about dealing with clients, even volatile ones. But none of that prepared me for aggression coming from a coworker. I was caught off guard, and I didn't do anything to protect myself in the moment. That's exactly why workplace self-defense is so important for you. It starts with safety planning, knowing who can help you, where you can go, and how you'll get out of a situation if it turns dangerous. Your first step is building an emergency contact list. Not for when your bully slides your coffee cup 2 inches to the left. It's for when they pick that coffee cup up and throw it across the room at you, and you need help now. These are the must-haves. Your collaborative partner at work, a coworker you trust, or at least someone who will answer the phone when you call. HR, preferably the director. Security, if your workplace has it. The police and other emergency numbers. Include your doctor, your workplace coach or therapist, your supervisor, or their supervisor. It's also a good idea to have a family member or friend. These should be written down and kept with you. Yes, you can keep them on your phone, but only if your phone is accessible in a worst-case scenario. If not, you may need to memorize a few of them. Now, you're probably asking yourself, Jan, why would I put HR or the police on my emergency contact list? Aren't you going a little too far? Well, no, because some forms of physical bullying have to be documented by people with authority. Your documentation alone isn't always enough. Depending on what happened, you may be dealing with more than workplace bullying. You may also be dealing with conduct that violates the law. In the moment, you need to know who to call and how to reach them. If you haven't thought about it beforehand, you'll end up doing what I did, hesitating and never making the call that needs to be made. Safety planning isn't just an emergency list. It's also understanding what your own nonverbal behavior is communicating to others and where your body is in relationship to the threat. We spent a lot of time watching the bully's nonverbal behavior for signs of escalation, but it's just as important to be aware of your own. Your posture, facial expressions, gestures, and movements communicate something too. If you're using workplace self-defense, you want your nonverbals to communicate neutrality. This isn't easy. It takes awareness and practice. As the bullying escalates, so does your body's response. Your adrenaline rises, your emotions intensifies, and maintaining ground control becomes much more difficult. Another part of safety planning is thinking about positioning. Where you sit, where you stand, where the exits are they accessible? And most importantly, where is Bob in relation to you? You don't want to get boxed in. Corners, back rows, walls, those spots kill your movement. Once you're boxed in, your body can't shift, step away, or get out of the way if things go south. Movement is protection. Stance is important too. Don't go toe-to-toe with Bob. It's confrontational, makes you look more threatening, and limits your mobility if things go sideways. Instead, angle your body slightly, 1 foot forward and 1 back. That gives you better balance and more freedom to move. If Bob steps towards you, it's easier to step back, move to the side, and create distance. You always want to be able to create space between yourself and the threat when you need to. The more distance between you and your bully, the better. It gives you time to react and more opportunity to get out of harm's way. But there are also times when you need to create distance because your own emotions are rising as the bullying escalates. Before that ever happens, think about where you can go to interrupt the interaction and regain control. You need a safe space to go to at work. That might be a bathroom, or even a bathroom stall, a break room, a hallway, or any place where you can step away for a few moments, interrupt the interaction, and regain control. There were so many times when my own emotions got the best of me and my ground control was starting to slip. When that happened, I knew I needed to get out of there. I usually did that by giving myself a reason to leave the room. Some things that I thought about ahead of time. Two of my go-to lines were, "My blood sugar is dropping. I need to run back to my office for my lifesavers." And, "I forgot that document. Let me grab it from my office." The lines were just cover. Those brief exits to my safe space gave me just what I needed. A few moments to compose myself so I could come back to the room and respond on my own terms, not Bob's. It also interrupted Bob's bullying. And sometimes that was enough when I came back into the room that Bob had moved on. Over time, those exits became part of my safety plan. The lesson is simple. Have a way out. And it's best to think about it before you need it. Come up with work-related excuses you can use to step away from a situation and disengage. Know when and where to use them, how they can keep you safe, and what you'll do if they don't work. It's always best to have a backup. That's what workplace self-defense is about. Recognizing when you're being bullied, understanding when you're most vulnerable, knowing your risk, and tailoring your response to the situation you're currently facing. It's about preparing before something happens instead of reacting in the moment. It's about giving you the advantage over Bob and keeping you in control. But that doesn't mean workplace self-defense gives you all the answers all of the time. The reality is you have to pay attention to the threat you're facing and the level of risk you're under at all times. Bullying is chaotic, and it can go from 0 to 100 in no time. And there may be times when workplace self-defense is no longer about managing the interaction. You can see that Bob has gone beyond the point of no return, and he is an imminent threat to you. You can see it in his nonverbal behavior and his verbal behavior. Those are going to give you clues about where things are headed. And when that happens, your priority is no longer being in the conversation or trying to de-escalate or proving a point. Your priority is protecting your physical safety. And when Bob has gone beyond the point of no return, that means you get the hell away from him and keep yourself safe. Workplace self-defense is about reducing risk, decreasing vulnerability, and increasing awareness so you have more options when bullying occurs. It's about making deliberate decisions instead of letting Bob decide your next move for you. I created this podcast because when I was being bullied, what I was reading didn't explain what was happening to me. More importantly, no one was telling me what I could do about it in the moment. All that was out there was document, report, and leave. That was worthless advice when my bully charged around the table at me. There was nothing that prepared me for that. That's exactly why I've spent so much time talking about workplace self-defense. Workplace self-defense provides you with the essential elements needed to create your own unique workplace self-defense plan. The challenge is learning how to put them together in a way that works for you. You're not relying on one strategy. You're combining workplace self-defense tools and moves to create your own plan. If you meet Bob in the hallway and he starts throwing his hands in the air and shaking his fists and yelling at you, the threat is increasing. In real time, you have to intervene. So you stay grounded with confident body language. You position yourself and create distance. But here's where you have options. You can use microscripts or silence. You can just stand there while Bob continues to bully. Or you might say, "Okay, Bob. Okay." And you continue to repeat that on a broken record until Bob stops or leaves. You might also use a collaborative partner. When Bob starts yelling, you see Lucy and you calmly say to Bob, "Oh, Bob, there's Lucy. I have to go because I really need to talk to her about this budget and I haven't been able to get in touch with her. I will stop by your office after I'm done. Thanks, Bob." Then you back away slowly without turning your back to Bob until you're safe and a good distance away from him. And then you catch up to Lucy. No matter what option you choose to use, those strategies kept you safe from Bob. The key is knowing how to mix and match your self-defense moves in a way that works. The more strategies you have, the more effective you become at workplace self-defense, and the more likely you are to shut Bob down. You need to expand your workplace self-defense arsenal, and you can do that at stopbullyculture.com/shop. The goal is to build a workplace self-defense plan that keeps you safe and gives you options when things start to go sideways. That's exactly why preparation matters. Sometimes Bob is playing games. He's trying to get into your head and make you question what you saw, what you heard, and what you know to be true. That's where we're going next in episode 33. Mind games. I wanted to talk to you for a moment about the future of the podcast. As many of you know, I'm a one-woman podcaster, and my life has gotten pretty hectic lately. Trying to balance everything has become increasingly difficult. I've given this a lot of thought, and barring any major changes, this will be the last season of Exposing Workplace Bullying. I really appreciate everyone who has listened and been part of this journey. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. If this episode hits home, check out stopbullyculture.com, where I share tools, resources, and real talk to help you deal with workplace abuse. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. Until next time.
They gaslight and plot, play their games. Witnesses smile, you're part of the shame. Your boss stays silent, closing the door. How many voices will they ignore? The bully lies, the brave get burned. The office watches, no lessons learned. Your boss hides, truth gets colder. It's time to stop the bully culture.